But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
What's up, party people, and welcome to HBR News number 179. We're coming up on 200, folks. 200 of these shows. Halloween will be a Me Too movie. Michael Moore, maybe a little later. Michael Moore goes through the divorce ringer. I am your host, Brian Martinez, and I am here with my Russian troll bots to look at the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Clam Slam Badger style. Let's get started, shall we? Today's panel consists of Mike J., Hannah Wallen, Dr. Random McCam, and me, the Doge in charge. I know I didn't put any puns in it this time. That's okay. I'm trying to save on time, and also sometimes I just don't have any ideas. We have a great show lined up for you guys today, though, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat and in the comments section. And remember what April Potter always says: men who shame women who lie about rape are actually worse than men who rape. On this week's HBR News Show, we'll be talking about hot takes just like that, as well as the events of the week, such as how the new Halloween film will be a hashtag #MeToo movement-filled movie with tremendous cultural change, Michael Moore's post-divorce lawsuit, male feminist and one good man Jackson Katz, also apparently occasional recurring supervillain, and much more. So stick around, it's going to be a good time. And also stick around all afterwards for the patron-only after show. The hashtag #MeToo witch hunt doesn't seem to be showing any signs of slowing down, but despite all the lives it's ruined, and will continue to ruin, it's not working fast enough for some people. There is a new hashtag, because this is how we change and destroy society, hashtags, that has emerged as a snarky, passive-aggressive answer to the often posed question, why didn't you speak up earlier? For those of you who dared to ask that question, this hashtag is called hashtag why I didn't report, and we will be looking at the CNN piece on it after today's show. So if you'd like to be a participant in our after shows, either as an audience member or a participant, as I said before, please consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the axe on our channels, go to badgerfeed.com. That is badgerfeed.com. Also, one other thing. We have gotten our streaming back on the main channel, Honey Badger Radio. However, I would like to direct you guys, if at all possible, that if you're subscribed to Honey Badger Radio, but you're not subscribed to Badger live streams, please subscribe to Badger live streams, because that is where the live shows will live for the foreseeable future. The live shows that will go up here on the main channel, Honey Badger Radio, they will only be available until the broadcast ends, at which case the only way to watch them after that is to go to Badger live streams. If we could get everyone who's subbed to HBR to go to Badger live streams, that would be great, because I know we can, as Badger live streams, it is a much smaller channel right now. But that is where a lot of the content, such as the HBR News Show, the HBR Talk Show, the Doge and Aiden show, the Fireside Chat, basically all the live things go up on the live streams channel. So please go on over there and give it a sub. In addition, we're not able to monetize the videos or take super chats on the main channel. So if you want to support us, it's also probably a better idea to go over to Badger live streams. So thank you so much for your time. And now,
or if you just want your voice heard, if you want us to read something out in a silly voice, then you got to go to Badger live streams for that sort of thing.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, don't allow YouTube to silence your silly voice version or potential silly voice version of something that you wanted super chatted out, and go to Badger live streams so that we can do that for you, because I like doing that. So, all right. So we're going to go ahead and get right into the news stories because we got a lot of them. And some of them are going to be a lot of fun. So first, we're going to be talking about Michael, but Michael Myers, not Michael Moore. Michael Myers. So I'm going to hand it over to Mike, another Mike J, to tell us about Mike Myers. Not the actor Mike Myers. Michael Myers, the serial murderer. You know what? It's confusing. There's a lot of Michaels. It's probably too many.
We've exceeded our quota of Michaels for the show. So, the Michael Myers Me Too. As Halloween the holiday quickly approaches, so does the latest iteration of the Halloween movie franchise. The 11th movie and 5th timeline established in the series marks the return of actress Jamie Lee Curtis, who will reprise her role as Laurie Strode. The film is to follow after the first movie in the series and feature a more mature Laurie Strode as she battles against Mike Myers with the help of her daughter and granddaughter. While writing for the movie started back in 2017, actress Jamie Lee Curtis calls the movie very much one for our times, specifically referencing the hashtag MeToo movement. In a statement to Entertainment Weekly, Curtis says, quote, "Well, I do not believe that when David and Danny and Jeff were writing this, they were looking at it as a way of incorporating the hashtag MeToo movement into this retelling or revisiting of this story. I think it is the natural occurrence of a zeitgeist, of a change, of a shift in thought and action, which comes from these moments of tremendous cultural change." Curtis continues, quote, "Clearly this movie will be another voice in the same chorus of women taking back their stories, saying, 'We are not that story. We have arrived, and we will be the ones that write our own stories.' And that only comes from the bravery of a few. This movie will be a part of that wave. I didn't realize it until we were making it, and I realized what Laurie was doing, and that was very powerful." Halloween will be in theaters October 19th.
See, feminists definitely can't do porn. They're not particularly good at romance. But I think they might be really good at horror. I think they've had this ace up their sleeve the whole time. Because I think it's their forte, isn't it? Making people shit their pants.
I think this is just a really lazy attempt to promote the movie.
I do too. I kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
There was this stuff about her the other day. I guess her son is like super into fighting games and goes to like fighting game tournaments.
She dressed up as Vega or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
So it's like, I think she just saw this thing from the outside and goes, "Oh, this is neat. Let's talk about this," and probably has no idea of the wider impact of it or anything else. Just like let's toss this in as a tie-in. It couldn't hurt, could it?
Yeah.
Well, if you really want to stretch, I imagine none of the victims in the movie consent to being penetrated with a machete.
There you go too. Also, in one of the movies, they like rape Michael Myers. Like a cult has him impregnate some woman to make a super evil baby or something like that.
That sounds like
one of the later ones.
That sounds like the Rob Zombie one. I think, didn't Rob Zombie direct one of them, and it was
Rob
just like
Zombie directed 2 for some reason.
Okay.
And they were god awful. They were even worse than the one where he rapes somebody. Or something.
So that's another one. I don't know. Those movies haven't been good for a while. But
seriously, the first 2, nothing else matters.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, the reason why I brought this up, it's okay. So I'm pretty sure this will also be a really bad movie because Hollywood has been on a streak of just destroying pop culture, legends, like any franchise. Like there's nothing is safe, right? So I'm fairly certain this one will die. But one of the reasons why I thought was interesting, well, there's actually a couple. One, 3 people wrote this, so I would be really interested to see how bad it is if 3 people did it. Now I could be wrong, it could be awesome, but the other thing is, though, the thing that I think is a little bit more concrete that I can observe is while I still believe that Jamie Lee Curtis was largely just saying this, giving lip service by using what is sort of, currently in the zeitgeist, which she is right about, as a way to promote the film, which I think is really effective, in particular on women viewers, to say this is for you, because the thing is that the horror genre isn't particularly popular with women normally, even though the horror genre often features female protagonists. It's actually more popular with men, I believe. And yet,
I don't know. I always liked it, but
what?
I suppose I suppose you do have a point because I was almost
I'm
always in
talking
a room
about
full of guys
I'm
watching
talking about the
horror
majority.
movies.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sure, because I mean I knew a couple of spooky girls that liked horror films too, but they were the exception, not really the rule. But the thing is that she's using this language, and this is the thing that I find really interesting, where she says, because a lot of what she's saying is really nothing. She says, we're looking at this as a way of incorporating the hashtag #MeToo movement into the retelling or revisiting of this story. So how is the Me Too movement different? How does that actually reinterpret any other horror film that features a woman being stalked by what is usually a man to kill her? How is that any different? Because I think symbolically, it's pretty much, like, the Me Too's not new. It's just like the latest iteration of a very old, idea. And she says, I think it's a natural occurrence of a zeitgeist, of a change, of a shift in thought and action, which comes from these moments of tremendous cultural change. It's like, it's very empty statements. It's just like, yeah, I think it's kind of popular, so I'm using the hashtag as a way to promote the movie. And then she says, women are taking back the story, saying, we are not that story. We have arrived, and we will be the ones that write our own stories. What is that? That's nothing. It's just empty. It's hilarious.
It's a repeat of feminist talking points.
Mm-hmm. I am here.
Yeah, this is this is the actress promoting a movie version of the beauty queen answering the question on the stage.
Yeah.
I like world peace.
Exactly.
Oh, no,
exactly.
that makes you highly intelligent. But no, she's her timing sucks though, because there's a lot of discussion, there's a lot of polarization around the Me Too movement now.
Mm-hmm.
People are starting to figure out that the driving feminists behind Me Too were not honest when they promoted it. They weren't honest about what their goals were with it and what they wanted to do with it and what it was really about for them.
Wait, are you saying that some feminists lie, like Asia Argento or Rose McGowan?
And it's starting to become blatantly obvious to normies that this is not about empowering women. This isn't Take Back the Night, which, by the way, was kind of the same as Me Too, but people didn't figure that out for years and years. But, now that people are questioning the validity of it, and now that people are starting to say, hey, I think we've been used, and now that people are starting to, because of what Me Too became and where it went, starting to question accusers more than they did before the Me Too movement. Now she comes out with, this is going to be a Me Too movie. Brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Watch it because it's relevant. That's basically what she's saying.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's my analogy would be it's the political PR version of getting sponsored by Burger King, because this is junk gender ideology. That's why it seems so empty. Mm-hmm. Everyone's heard of it. You can't get away from it. It's not very good for you, but fuck you, eat it.
But this movie will be a flame grilled movie.
They'll bring back the Szechuan sauce.
The only thing is you're not going to be able to have it your way. You got to have it her way. So they've written it with 3 people instead of 1. And as they say, when something's written by 1 person, it's a horse. When it's written by a committee, it's a camel. Now, a horse raping you is more deadly than a camel, but does that mean a horse is more likely to rape you than a camel?
Keeps
the more
me
you
up at night,
think.
These questions.
Yeah, I should have been asking myself about camel rape long ago. I'm glad you brought this to my attention.
I have no idea how rapey camels are. They could be completely unrapey for all I know.
I do particularly like how in her quote she says, and we will be the ones that write our own stories. It's like, actually, no. 3 men are writing your story.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. It's so empty. It's so hilarious. Like, if there are people who buy into it, I hope you enjoy the trash fire that you're likely gonna get. But it is pretty funny. Okay, well, we're going to move on from that. It was just a short little story that I thought I'd mention, bring up because I thought it was just kind of funny. And looking at the empty rhetoric for what it is, it's a sales pitch now. It's not even like, it doesn't mean anything anymore, So we're going to talk about Michael Moore because the Schadenfreude, it's strong. It's so strong. Okay, Mike J, if you could. This is another Mike.
Yes.
Almost probably worse than Michael Myers.
We've got like 6 mics in this room. It explains all the feedback.
So, less, not more. Michael Moore, documentarian, activist, and baseball hat enthusiast, has been engaged in a messy lawsuit with his ex-wife, Kathleen Glenn, following their divorce in 2014. Glenn, who is also a filmmaker, claims that Moore has been withholding profits from her on movies they produced jointly. Moore claims that the lawsuit is a smear campaign, with his lawyer, Kenneth Warner, calling it an attempt to, quote, smear Moore in the press with her false allegations, and that Glenn, quote, gratuitously included highly personal and confidential information in her petition in an apparent effort to increase public exposure and try to embarrass Moore. The suit has revealed Moore's negative income reporting to the IRS for the years 2014 and 2016. Moore also claims the timing of this lawsuit was also malicious as it was, quote, filed on September 6, 2018, the day of the world premiere of Moore's most recent film, Fahrenheit 11/9. Moore and Glenn are due back in court on October 4th, but it's unclear if either will show.
Well, if anybody knows what a smear campaign looks like, it'd be Michael Moore. And I think he could be considered the expert on whether or not something is a smear campaign. So, case closed.
I don't know. Michael Moore's claiming that his wife is making false allegations, huh? Is that it? Trying to smear her? Believe the woman, Michael Moore. I believe the woman. I'm sorry. This is what you said. This is what you said. I remember when he was on Bill Maher and they were talking about men and women, and he said the reason why men die so early is because they stress themselves out so much by disagreeing with women, and that they should just agree with the woman and go along with whatever it is she says. And they should just like give in to her. So if you want to live a long and healthy life, which I can tell by looking at you, you're obviously living, maybe you should just agree with her and just go ahead and go along with everything. It'll be good for your health, Michael Moore. It'll be good for your health.
It's one of those rules of life. If you happen to be a fat, disgusting slug, then whatever woman you get to marry you probably isn't going to love you for anything about you. Because especially if you're a particularly sluggish person as well. But if you go really, really fucking full on Jabba the Hutt, then no court will ever believe that you domestically abused her, because you can barely swing your arms further than a T-Rex. So just keep going, Mike. Just keep on piling on the pounds, and then no jury would ever convict you of any wrongdoing, because you're essentially planted onto the toilet like the ficus you are.
Mm-hmm. Also, you can't blame your wife or your divorce for the ridiculously pathetic failure that was your movie Fahrenheit 11/9. Nobody watched it because it's just not good, and no one was interested in your partisan hackmanship. So, anyways, other than that, I hope the best for you, but this is like what happens. This is the situation for men. Do you understand now? Now that it's happening to you, this is the thing that I get annoyed with, is that, male feminist types and SJW types, they shit on men. They call them incels. They call them misogynists. They laugh at their problems until they have those problems, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he was all about believe the accuser when it came to this whole like Kavanaugh shit, but with his wife, no, that's different. She's lying about me, obviously, because I'm one of the good guys. I'm not somebody that does that. All right, well, I gotta go.
And now you're an incel, Michael.
Yes.
You what? You've been involuntarily celibate for the last year of your marriage. Weird. It happens to married men as well.
Okay, so Ciara DeFlora gives us $5 and says, Michael Myers, may I stab you repeatedly? V, no. I forget what the V stands for. I think it's Michael Myers. Oh, man. French Honey Badger gives us $5 and says, participate as a participative participant to the participatory participation. Also, tax optimization from Michael Moore, thinky face. Yeah, avoid Michael Moore, the guy who's basically like everyone should be paying their fair share, has been like, apparently dodging taxes a bit, trying to avoid paying his fair share. Who'd have thought that somebody like that would be a hypocrite?
Either that or his work sucks so bad he's not making any money.
Yeah, or he's not making any
that
money.
One's not much of a stretch.
Yeah, because his work does suck pretty bad.
Well, he should probably still pay his fair share. But
there we go.
That might be the case. Okay. Yes, Black Knight Fool says even 9/11 Fahrenheit was a smear. Yeah, it was. So was Bowling for Columbine. I used to like those movies, and now I look back and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? They're such crap. But anywho, that was it. I just wanted to briefly touch on Michael Moore's situation because I thought it was interesting. And we'll go on to the next story unless there's any final thoughts on this. Oh, wait, I got a really big super chat just now. Hold on. $20 from Miles Kinslow. Where are all the skeptics / atheists who apparently believe evidence in this believe women era? That's a good question. I think a lot of them have really dropped the ball on that. I don't even understand it, to be honest. But, well, I do.
No, yeah, you have to believe women because you have to be skeptical of the patriarchy. In order to be sufficiently skeptical of the patriarchy, you have to believe women all the time. That's, I think...
Except for women like me. You can't believe women like me if you're going to be skeptical of the patriarchy. Or
that woman, there was a woman who was a voice actress for Star Wars animated show or something. And she because she was a professional voice actress, she did this impression of Ford. And basically did this hilarious sort of, parody of her speech and making these, and it just basically like making fun of her, right? And her Twitter is gone. She had to take down the tweet. They just came after her. I don't think she's going to have a job anymore, to be honest. I don't remember the woman's name, but she made fun of Ford, the woman that's accusing Kavanaugh of gang rape or whatever. And... she made fun of her, and that was, you shouldn't do that. On Twitter, made a video, and it's all over the place, and they're coming after her. So she probably will lose her job, at least.
Wait, you're telling me that there was a harassment mob sent after a Star Wars woman?
Yes!
And we're not supporting the woman?
Yeah.
But that's not how these things work.
Exactly. Well, she's the right kind of target, so... you know how it goes.
She's an unwoman. Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. She's not a woman anymore. She's lost her womanhood. Okay, so moving on to the next story. Speaking of Me Too, because it doesn't stop. Man reacting, responding to Jackson Katz. The uncertainty of the Kavanaugh / Ford allegations is being turned into a teaching moment for men by Jackson Katz. On Facebook, I've seen an excerpt from Katz's The Macho Paradox, Why Some Men Hurt Women and How All Men Can Help, shared around by feminists and normie non-feminists alike, which really is another way of saying mild feminists.
Just want to interrupt here for a second because my parents were English teachers. That's a badly written title. That's a very badly written title. It could be taken in an entirely different way than he clearly meant.
Yeah.
And he should not have written it in that particular order.
Yes.
Just so what you're talking about.
Yeah. Why some men hurt women and how all men can help. Hurt women. Yeah.
Well, we got to do our fair share to hurt women.
You guys are way behind.
What? Way behind?
Hurting women.
On hurting women?
Women hurting quota.
Yeah. We gotta get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. Katz argues that the hashtag MeToo movement in some ways says more about men than it does about women. Of course it does. From an ABC News article about how men are reacting, Katz says, quote, "What I've been saying for the past year is that all these women coming forward to talk about what happened to them means that millions of men and young boys have been engaging in that behavior. It's not just women having this happen to them. It's boys and men that are doing it." Katz says that within the politics are men's reactions to the Kavanaugh 4 testimony. Quote, which range from fear of being held accountable more than 30 years later to anger to a belief that no one was committed or no wrong was committed. A lot of people who defend Kavanaugh, I think they probably believe he did this behavior, but it's okay because boys will be boys. There are probably some men who are defensive and feeling vulnerable because of the question of the past coming back to haunt them. While a lot of men are happy to see accountability because they are not happy with the behavior of other men. The excerpt from Katz's The Macho Paradox, Why Some Men Hurt Women and How All Men Can Help, has recently gotten a boost on social media. So yeah, happened that it helped out Jackson Katz's presence a bit.
Again with this boys will be boys thing. No, I haven't heard anyone saying boys will be boys about this. I have heard people saying believe women, which I think is the equivalent of girls are just girls. You know, they don't do things wrong. Just believe them. I think that's the projection they're making here. They think boys will be boys is a mantra that everyone says that means boys are allowed to lie and rape and shit. And in the meantime, we actually do have mantras like listen and believe women and shit.
Well, the other one is that if millions of women are making rape accusations, that means millions of men and boys are committing rape. No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean any of them. It's an accusation. An accusation is just an accusation until there is evidence. If there is not evidence, it doesn't mean anybody did anything. And of those who are telling the truth, it's already been demonstrated in research multiple times that most rape is committed by a small percentage of the population that is already criminally violent in other ways. Not that for every person who has made an allegation, there's somebody out there, a different person for each one, that's guilty. That's not the case at all.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that. Their logic is terrible.
Oh, it's abysmal. It's abysmal. Okay, moving on. The excerpt from Katz's The Macho Paradox, Why Some Men Hurt Women and How All Men Can Help, has recently gotten a boost on social media. Without reading the whole thing, it's about an exercise Katz conducted in which he asks men and women the same question. What steps do they take on a daily basis to prevent being sexually assaulted? The men don't think about it, and the room is mostly silent. When he asks the women, many raise their hands and recount safety precautions they take as part of their daily routine to stunned men. Katz believes that this, quote, exercise is an example that you can't deny as a man or young man with any integrity that sexual violence is not an issue. Okay, so a couple things I got to say about this. Nobody is saying that sexual violence is not an issue. Nobody has a problem with acknowledging that it happens, right? This is a trick that's set up. When people say we should have due process, which is all this Kavanaugh thing is he deserves due process, innocent until proven guilty. That's it. That's it, right? And then because we have a system of due process and presumed innocence until they're proven guilty, we also have something we have to follow. So if somebody shows up out of the blue 30 plus years after something supposedly happened, making an accusation, we should, on some level, we should take it seriously in terms of addressing it. But that does not mean we have to believe her and that he has to prove his innocence, because it's impossible. And it does mean that we can question why it wasn't brought up before, right? There's no logic to it. Like, are we going to treat women as adults, or are we going to treat them as children? Because if we treat them like adults, then we have to hold them to account when they do things that are not mature, like waiting 30 fucking years to say something, right? So, that, I mean, to me anyway, that's just not smart. There's something wrong with that. It should be criticized, should be analyzed, should be questioned. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that to assume that women cannot lie and that they always tell the truth, that's childish and dumb. And also, when Jackson Katz sets up this false straw man argument that because, you know, men worry, because men tend to be less, let's say, concerned with their safety when they leave their house, you know, like to prevent themselves from being assaulted sexually or otherwise, it does not mean that they don't actually think it happens to anyone, right? And just because women tend to worry more and they tend to take more steps to prepare does not mean that they are more likely to be sexually assaulted. It just means they're more worried about it.
Yeah, they've been taught to fear. They've been taught to fear everything, which is kind of hurtful. It's the kind of thing Jackson Katz does. He teaches women to fear the world. So indeed, he is one of those men who hurts women, and he wants all men to help.
That is one of the things I was going to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones that created that.
We spend our whole lives from the time we are in junior high school being told by other women that there's a rapist around every corner, down every dark alley, you know, and in every closet, just waiting to get us. And we need to take precautions in our daily lives to make sure that we're safe and protected and so on. The fact of the matter is, it's not true. We're not in that level of danger, and we don't have to be constantly afraid to go out and do things and worry that it's going to happen to us. But the other end of it is, one of the reasons that men don't think about it isn't that men are never in danger or that men never learn to mitigate danger. It's because as boys growing up, they learn it so well that it becomes ingrained to be aware of your surroundings automatically, to pay attention to the people that are around you automatically, to be ready to deal with an attack automatically. And men are more ready, their reflexes are more ready, their awareness is more ready, and their ability to become aggressive if they have to is more ready than that of women. It's that way when they're little boys because of the way they play rough with each other. And it's really sneaky and underhanded for this guy to use those questions in that manner. Because if he's actually studied the two genders, he knows that. He knows men are not going to be consciously necessarily thinking of their safety because they already have learned so much about protecting themselves that they don't have to think about it.
Well, there's one other thing.
They're so shocked when a woman does something really stupid. One
other thing
Karen describes when one of her family members was almost dragged into a fight with gang members because the girl he was with yelled at them for committing a crime in public.
Mm-hmm. One other thing about men, too, is that not only are we sort of conditioned to it, but we don't benefit from, being afraid. We're not conditioned to fear it. We're conditioned to confront it. So when we go out, men are more likely to suffer from violent crimes than women are in public, like out in the open. It's possible that women might be more likely to suffer from sexual crimes, but violent crimes should not rank below sexual crimes. We somehow give that more value, but I don't think it is. And I think that if you just look at, are men more at risk or less at risk when they are out and about? They are more at risk of violent crime. And if you were like, if a man ends up in prison for something minor, he's also at a much greater risk for sexual crime, and not just from men, right? But we don't acknowledge the existence of that, and part of the reason is because what Jackson Katz is measuring is not the actual rates of crime. He's trying to measure people's feelings about victimization. And naturally, women tend to feel more anxious, more afraid, more concerned for their well-being, for violence that might be visited upon them. But it's not, it has no basis in reality. It has basis in what they feel. And it's a feeling that people like Jackson Katz had put in them. So it's like he creates the disease and then he diagnoses it as a problem that all men have to take responsibility for.
Well, and there's also the fact that women are aware of the measures that they take for their own safety and protection, because these are things that have had to be explained to them in adulthood by other people, and they feel clever for it. Men do exactly the same things and more because they had to learn it from example and experience when they were growing up. And they don't necessarily feel clever for it. They just take it as a normal thing. And they actually, I've seen them really get disgusted with women for not knowing these things. And I've also seen some really stupid stuff from women because of that lack of awareness. I think I've brought this one up before. You drive through a parking lot in a grocery store where people's families are going in and out, and you'll see at least once every time some idiot woman walking into the store with her face in her phone as she crosses where the traffic goes back and forth, and the guy she's with will have to grab her by the shirt or the coat and stop her. Because I've seen that over and over again. And I've actually seen guys pull women out of traffic and the woman gets annoyed. Like, how dare you do that to me? Well, what is he supposed to do? Let her get hit by a truck?
Yeah.
You know, and of course women know when they're being, because they feel, it's, oh, I did something normal. Do I get a cookie? And of course men aren't going to be aware of it because they just do it. They just do it all the time.
Yeah,
It's
if you ask him,
incredibly dishonest for a man to use a question like that to shame other men.
yeah, it's like asking a man, when you go out at night, what do you wear? Do you wear your short shorts? Your shortest short shorts and your flimsiest vest? He might say, well, no, of course not. I just wear my shirt and my jacket and my trousers. I don't think about it. And this is because men don't have the option
Right.
of walking around in short shorts and vests unless they really, really want to draw attention to themselves. Whereas women do think about that because they have many, many options in terms of what they can wear safely and not be gawped at by normal strangers.
Exactly. Also related to that, I just learned about this before the show started, so I wasn't able to put anything in, but I think it's related real quick. Donald Trump commented on this whole Kavanaugh stuff, and he said some pretty triggering shit, so I thought I would share it real quick. President Trump said Tuesday that Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh's experience of being accused of sexual assault marked a difficult moment for young men. It's a very scary time for young men in America when you can be guilty of something that you may not be guilty of, Trump told reporters on the White House lawn as he left for an event in Pennsylvania. You can be somebody that was perfect your entire life, like me, and somebody could accuse you of something. Trump said that he hoped that there would be a vote on Kavanaugh's confirmation at the end of the week and hoped it would be a positive vote, though he added the caveat that ultimately, we're going to have to see what the FBI says. I remember my college days, Trump said Tuesday. Everybody was drinking, and they used to drink a lot of beer. And there was nothing wrong. Touting energized crowds at his recent campaign rallies across the country, Trump said the Kavanaugh confirmation process is like a rallying cry for Republicans. When asked what his message was for young women, because NBC tried to get him on that, Trump responded, "Women are doing great." But it's I'm sure people are losing their mind, but he's not saying anything in my mind that is particularly controversial, except it's a scary time for young men in America. Apparently that's something you shouldn't say.
This is great. I really, really hope
it's so great
that it turns out, everything turns out fine. Kavanaugh gets on the Supreme Court, because then we will have two on the Supreme Court whose life experience has driven home to them exactly how important due process is as a civil right.
And who have absolutely no love for the Democratic Party.
Or feminists.
Hashtag punished Kavanaugh.
This is the thing. Feminists have really shot themselves in the foot if they don't find some way to get rid of this guy, because now they have galvanized due process activists. They have driven home to him how bad they are. They've made it so that they'll never be able to go into the Supreme Court and argue in front of this guy that it's important to believe women over all other things, because he now has seen the damage they can do firsthand. And it's too perfect. It's the best thing that could happen if he gets in there. And I think he will, unless something worse than what's come out so far. Because, I mean, yeah, they've got somebody accusing him of getting in a bar fight in college now, because nobody else has ever done that. That's totally disqualifying, right?
I hear he drank beer at 17 as well.
Oh my God!
Masturbated at 15.
Oh my God!
Oh my God!
Well, most of my school is disqualified now.
Bury him under the train tracks.
When I was in high school, I went to 2 parties. I hosted one of them, and it was a pool party, and my parents were chaperones. And the other one was one a girl had just to see if my classmates could have a good time without getting drunk. Those are the only 2. I was not as cool at school as I was other places, because everybody in town knew my parents, and I'd get in huge trouble. But in any case, I just, the idea that they're coming out with these stupid little things and making such a big deal out of them, they're going to end up driving this guy so far away from being tolerant of their viewpoint that they're going to be fucked for like the next 50 years.
I just want to say,
they'll have influence on the next people.
Yeah, exactly. The next judge and the judge after that. And as long as this story is remembered, they're all going to have their eye sort of cocked in that direction. Like,
yeah, no, for sure. The reason why I thought the last bit was funny, when it says, when asked what his message was for young women, he responded, "Women are doing great." I think it's funny because I think they were hoping he would say something like, basically that goes against the narrative that the Democrats and the feminists have been pushing, that it's just terrible time for women. We're like this close to the Handmaid's Tale. They're going to lose all their rights. We're going to put them in sandwich mines and baby factories. It's going to be Mad Max Fury Road all over again, even though it's never happened before. And he says women are doing great. Like, he goes right up against it. You know what? Women are doing just fucking fine. They're doing great. Why are you so hell-bent on scaring the shit out of them? And I love that comment. I think that says, it's 4 words that says so much. So I'm glad he said that. And he also said it's a scary time for men. So you contrast that against women are doing great, says a lot.
I think this Handmaid's Tale thing might be an American thing. We don't make this comparison in Europe quite so often, for reasons that become obvious when you think about it. I'm going to see if I can start bringing up the Handmaid's Tale in a sort of apocalyptic way, and see how long it'll be before I'm called Islamophobic for it.
Yeah. I wonder.
We're not going to get a Christian takeover like the one in the book, but we're getting remarkably close to another group of people who wear robes and shit.
Yeah, right. I mean, Lindsay Lohan's religion. Is that what you're talking about?
You saw the thing.
Oh, yeah.
You all saw the thing.
Yes.
We're not doing a story about that. It's
no.
It's
too much cringe.
The religion of kidnapping other people's children?
Yeah. That was a Freaky Friday. I did do a thing on that, but okay. So anyway, moving on. Any other thoughts on this Jackson Katz crap? I mean, it's not like we didn't see that coming. I'm sure Michael Kimmel would have also gone public, except he's still dealing with a sexual misconduct allegation, so he's probably going to have to lay low for a while. In before Jackson Katz is accused, by the way.
Yeah, he's gotten really quiet, hasn't he?
Michael Kimmel's been not since the accusations came out.
He just went off the radar entirely.
Mm-hmm. It's time to lay low, buddy. It's time to lay low.
Yep.
Okay, so I got some super chats here. Ciara de Flora gives us $5 and says, why do many not think Ford should have come forward much earlier about the assault and not decades later? Because the people who believe that shit believe that women are babies that don't know how to do anything and that we should essentially just change the rules for them. Just change all the rules for them. Could you imagine any case where, let's say, somebody emerged from nowhere and accused Obama of assaulting them when in the 1980s? Do you think we would take that seriously? Do you think that they would report on that? Do you think that they would care? I mean, the only time it might actually get any traction is if the person who came forward was a woman. But
Maybe Judge Sotomayor.
It wouldn't have gotten any traction, and I can tell you that.
Appointed.
The reason I can tell you that is because of the senator or congressman, I don't know, that's running for re-election right now, whose ex-wife had accused him of domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
And there was physical evidence. There were police reports. There were hospital records. There was actually something there to at least examine. Now, even all of that, believe it or not, she can have injuries that she reported. And it still might not mean that he actually did anything to her. You know, now if there's video of it, if there were witnesses, if there was audio tape, like there was the 911 call with O.J. Simpson where he's in the background screaming and yelling, things like that are evidence. But I personally know one guy who was falsely accused, whose accuser showed up in the courtroom with bruises. And he was able to prove he was somewhere else when she got those bruises. So, you know, it can happen that there's physical evidence of injuries and the guy's not guilty. But they're not even talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
They just aren't, like, the only news media that's talking about this story is Fox News, the
Yep.
right-wing media. The left-wing media aren't talking about it at all. And they're not talking about one of the senators from Ohio, Sherrod Brown. He had an accusation that came out, and his ex-wife, admitted that it was a false accusation. She has come out and said, "I lied. You know, I was just mad at him. I got a false frivolous restraining order. I cannot stand Sherrod Brown. I'm opposed to Sherrod Brown as a candidate. I think it was really ridiculous the way his office answered me when I wrote to him about the Campus Save Act. I will not be voting for Sherrod Brown, but it fascinates me, and to see that he's been through a false allegation and is still loyal to the feminist party line, I guess you could say. And I would defend him against that false allegation. Just because I don't like his politics doesn't mean he's not still, you know, entitled to the right of due process. But the news media doesn't cover this stuff because they're Democrats, and they do toe the progressive, Marxist, feminist line. So they're okay.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's because he's on the right side of the political spectrum, and I think that's what I was getting at. You know, it's like, but it also would shift if it's, you know, if it was a male accuser. It'd be laughed out of the room. Like if a man came forward and said 30 years ago this guy did something to me, there would be no follow up. Like we would hardly even hear about it, even from the right wing media, because they have a hard time seeing men as victims. And you know, I mean, look at Corey Haim struggling to get this whole pedophilia thing addressed. Now, I mean, you know, he's not doing the best job of not seeming a little unhinged while doing it. But the point is that he's been, you know, talking about this for a long time and nobody's taking it seriously. And then this, like, you know, Ford comes out of nowhere and she gets to be in front of Congress. That's how seriously they take it. You know, Patton Oswalt put on a fucking shirt saying "Believe her," along with a whole bunch of other Hollywood cunts that don't actually understand how the law works. And they take it very seriously. So it's definitely very selective. This whole thing is so retarded. You know, and I don't see an end anytime soon, unfortunately. So, but anyway, let's move on to the next story. We're gonna be talking. Hopefully, we're gonna get some good news now. Okay, so the college fix. A University of Arkansas student, John Doe, says that the university punished him despite exculpatory evidence, and in the process violated his due process rights. The incident allegedly occurred in October 2017, after which Jane Roe, his accuser, had left a Halloween-themed party. I hope there was no cultural appropriation going on there, so everybody should have been arrested. She confirms that she was not drunk before or during the encounter, which occurred at his apartment. Roe initiated sex, and afterward they talked about Roe's previous relationship with her ex-boyfriend. Doe, this is the man, then invited her to go downtown where he was picking up friends. She allegedly protested when faced with having to leave the apartment. She was angry that he was choosing his friends over her. Her protest, saying, quote, "This always happens to me," woke up Doe's roommate, who says that she didn't sound drunk. She threatened to kill herself, and after he had dropped her off at her home, she slit her wrists. Holy shit. Do not take women like this home. Her roommate's boyfriend found her and called 911, during which Roe blamed it on her recent breakup with her ex-boyfriend, which had not happened that day. After that, Roe was accused of sexual assault by the Title IX office.
You know, if you're going to call the woman Roe, you might as well go right ahead and call the man Wade.
Yeah.
Or just do away with both of them and call them both Sam Hyde.
I'll just call them John and
Sam
Jane.
Sam Hyde raped Sam Hyde, and then Sam Hyde killed Sam Hyde, and Sam Hyde will never get away with it.
I believe that.
I'll just change it from John and Jane, because I think that's probably better. The Title IX office, because that's what you do when you've been sexually assaulted, refused John's request to have his interviews recorded, and the investigation revealed that Jane never claimed that there was a use of force, intimidation, or threat. She claimed that she could not remember much and had not been wearing underwear on the way to the hospital, so she had assumed that they had sex. She also claimed that it was Tuesday. She also claimed that she couldn't remember getting angry at John. The Title IX coordinator noted that Jane's testimony between the Title IX investigation and the Fayetteville Police Department were inconsistent, and that he concluded it was more likely than not that Jane and John had sex and that Jane was not incapacitated. However, Jane appealed the Title IX findings. During the appeal, she changed her accusation. She accused him of using force when they had sexual intercourse. The appeal panel did not allow John time to review any of this new evidence that Jane brought forth. The panel ignored all the old evidence and concluded that Jane was incapacitated at some point in time while she was at John's apartment. In a 2-1 decision, they found John responsible, despite the fact that it was shown that Jane said that the sex was consensual. The panel said that, quote, "Males should be able to assess the intoxication level of females at all times, and that John had the, quote, motivation to skew the truth. Regarding Jane's changing story, she had already engaged in and led a campus-wide campaign against sexual violence after John's initial exoneration, which would have been undermined if it were determined she was skewing the truth. His punishment was requiring to undergo an online sexual violence accountability course and pay the $125 training fee. Jane had been threatening to sue the university and went on a media blitz. John has filed a lawsuit against the university, claiming that the university found him guilty because the university was under pressure from the Department of Education, probably run by feminists, for previous investigations. There are also multiple claims of due process violations throughout the entire process, if you had not noticed.
So, men out there, y'all are perfectly able to assess the intoxication level of females at all times, right?
Yeah. I just look at a girl's eyes and look at how the pupils are dilated. That ought to tell you.
No.
Yes.
You just check the alcohol meter on the back.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was a spot on the back where you can find them. Where is it like? Because
You have to get really, really close to her ass. No, just kidding.
Oh God.
Yeah, some women, yeah, believe it or not, some women drink quite a lot. Like they're quite used to it. They have a high tolerance for it. They can drink a fair amount and still look basically sober. But to a judge and to a court, it's still 10 units, so technically drunk.
That's the thing. We can use honey badgers for this example. You give me and Karen exactly the same amount of exactly the same type, exactly the same proof alcohol, and make it whatever it would take for Karen to become tipsy and make me drink that much. I'd be unconscious. I can get two beers, and then I drink other things that don't have alcohol in them. And everybody at the ICMI, the last ICMI, got to sort of see that. I kept going back and forth between coffee and juice and other stuff like that. And I'd have one beer and then I'd drink coffee and a bunch of other non-alcoholic things. And then I have another beer and I drink coffee and a bunch of other non-alcoholic things. And, we all laugh about it, but I'm a lightweight. That's a total difference between two women that's dramatic. And part of it is, probably our genetic heritage. I have a lot of family that some of my family can drink heavily, and I have family that can't drink at all. I have family that can't tolerate one beer, and it may be a genetic thing. This isn't something that girls think they need to keep up with guys. Girls think they need to drink as much as possible in college and still pretend to be sober. And it's ridiculous. And they get this idea from feminists that they can do anything men can do, and they don't have to have any consequences for their behavior. And then they end up in situations like this, and then they throw temper tantrums because the consequences happened anyway. Well, unfortunately, when you make bad decisions, you face consequences. And I'm not talking about you deserve to be raped because you were drinking. No, you sometimes make bad sexual choices when you're a little bit drunk. And that's still your choice that you made, even if you had a couple of beers. If you were able to get up and walk out of there by yourself, if you remember what you did, if you were able to articulate what you wanted, if you were able to engage physically in the activity, you were not too drunk to refuse. And so your consent is valid. And this idea that a guy should be punished because a woman has regrets about a decision she made is going to destroy the ability of heterosexual youth to get together and form relationships at all. It definitely needs to stop. And this university's response should have been exactly the opposite. They have this chick out there slandering them for a decision they made in a case in which the police department didn't consider the guy guilty. The police department didn't go after the guy for the crime, for the alleged crime. The university is not responsible for the girl's regret either.
Right.
They should have filed a complaint against her, taken civil action against her.
Yeah.
Not reverse their decision.
Yep. This Title IX shit is just it's fucked up. Like what we're seeing. This is that's a crazy story. I thought it was gonna be good news. I'm sorry, guys. This last one, though, I swear to God, it's true. It is good news. But I'm sorry, Hannah. Were you done?
I was done. I was
okay.
done. And even if I hadn't been done, I was going to have to be done at that moment anyway.
Oh, okay. Anybody else got any thoughts on this story that we just did? I wonder if there were any red flags that told you that if you sleep with a girl, have a one-night stand, wake up the next day and say, hey, let's go hang out with my friends, and then she screams, this always happens, I'm going to kill myself. There's got to be something in between there that tells you, oh, I know, it was her talking about her boyfriend the entire time they were on their date. maybe that's a red flag. There's definitely some things you should be looking out for. Although, if you ask me, I would say just focus on your studies while you're in college. Don't have sex with women in college.
Yeah, there's a 3-date rule for a reason. That's not just for women. You date someone 3 times before you fuck them, just so you can figure out how fucking crazy they are. Mm-hmm. It might take 3 dates to figure out how crazy someone is. Or it might just take meeting them 3 times and having 3 long conversations with them before you can assess that this probably isn't a good idea.
Yeah,
might want to assess how much of a disease risk they are, considering between the total number of various STDs that are in existence now, half of the population, statistically, half of the population is infected in the United States. That doesn't mean that actually half the population is infected, but that's how many infections there are out there. So you just judge character, and don't be afraid to slut shame. Maybe you don't have to do it out loud, but maybe your decision-making process, if your decision-making process is something that feminists would be calling slut shaming, don't feel bad about that.
Yeah.
You have the right to defend yourself against these things.
We live in the age of social media, so it should be really easy for you guys to figure out who the thoughts are and either just patrol them and stay away from them and just discriminate. That's it. Just avoid the thoughts,
For your own good, by the way. We talk of it in terms of slut shaming, but really don't think of it in terms of don't go near these women because too many men have been around them. No, don't go near these women because of the revolving door of men that you'll be walking in and out of. If that's what you want, then fine. But don't stick your dick in crazy. I think that's the first law already, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so I got some super chats here. Cyberberserk gives us 20 secs and says, young boys, meaning from age 0 to 12? I forgot the context. That was a little while ago. Censor Duke gives us $5 Australian and says, Jackson Katz's name was wasted on him. Yeah, it's actually kind of a cool sounding name. It's too bad about that. Tyler Preston gives us $2 and says, they're now trying to tie Kavanaugh to Gamergate. But why? Gamergate's so cringe, guys. Would we please stop talking about it? It's so 2014. Not relevant at all and totally over and dead, I said sarcastically. And what the fuck does that have to do with... Those things are not at all related, but maybe...
This is the degrees of separation they have on it. Basically, from what I've been led to believe, Mark Judge, I think is the name of Kavanaugh's buddy, was either a supporter or at least had kind things to say about Gamergate.
That's it right there. Oh, shit. That's all it takes, man. It's guilty by association by association. By commentary on association. That's basically how they did it. But you know what? That's fine. I'm glad that Mark Judge has nice things to say. I don't have a problem with the connection. I just think it's spurious at best. Censor Duke gives us $2 Australian and says, Karen versus Doctor drinking comp when? Pretty much every time we get together. Although no one declares a winner because everybody wins.
We drink at our own pace. Karen's a good example. I can't tell when Karen's drunk because she literally drinks wine all day, like from lunchtime unless she's driving. Of course, she would never drink and drive. But yeah, and people often think she's drunk in certain clips, like that clip of her in the red pill. I thought this as well. Everyone assumes she's drunk in that clip. She's not at all. It was quite late at night, and she was drinking coffee, and it was quite hot. That's why she looked.
Yeah, she said she had a cold. That's why her nose was red. Like she had like this, bad sinus thing going on. But like Karen doesn't. I mean, not that that's not what this is about. But briefly, Karen does not get drunk very easily. Actually, she drinks a lot, but she doesn't get drunk. I've only been around her drunk a couple times. So, it's all about pacing yourself. Yeah, it depends
drinking
on what you're
contest between the
drinking.
two. Sorry, guys, my Wi-Fi is for some reason going in and out. What I was going to say is a drinking contest between the two you guys it would be kind of meaningless. You still have a man's metabolism, and you would probably still be able to drink her under the table because you're a guy.
It would depend what we're drinking. If we were drinking white wine, I think she'd win. If it was honey jack, I think I'd win.
It's like what your body was like, trained for.
Yeah, if I drink as much white wine as Karen does in a day, I'm asleep. Before the sun goes down.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next story, I guess, if there's nothing else. So we only got 2 left, and I'm surprised we might actually get through them all. A study has been revealed, so this is kind of interesting. Research from the University of British Columbia and Simon Fraser University recently conducted a study on dating violence. Overall, rates of physical abuse went down, of course, just as all kinds of violent crime in the West has been on the decline. However, last year the study reports that 5.8% of boys reported dating violence, while only 4.2% of girls. Lead author Catherine Schaefer, a PhD student at SFU, said that, quote, "It could be that it's still socially acceptable for girls to hit or slap boys in dating relationships. You think? This has been found in studies of adolescents in other countries as well." She also states that, quote, "Young people who experience dating violence are more likely to act out and take unnecessary risks, and they're also more likely to experience depression or think about or attempt suicide. That's why it's good to see that decline in dating violence over a 10-year span. It suggests that healthy relationship programs are making an impact among youth." Elizabeth Saywick, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, senior study author and UBC nursing professor, says that, quote, "A lot of our interventions assume that the girl is always the victim. But these findings tell us that it isn't always so. And relationship violence, be it physical, sexual, or other, and regardless of who the perpetrator is never okay. So no matter what. Healthcare providers, parents, and caregivers, schools, and others can protect teens from dating violence by helping them define what healthy relationships look like even before their first date." That is, of course, presuming that the parents, caregivers, and schools themselves know what a healthy relationship looks like. But, so it turns out that the rates of boys who are the victims of dating violence are slightly higher than those of girls.
I'll imagine my shock.
Yeah.
Yes, doesn't surprise me at all. And I've gone over this one a few times, and I'm literally watching my computer threaten to cut off my internet again as I speak. It like where it says voice connected keeps turning orange. Like, what the hell? I have no problems all day with my internet. Get on the show, boom. But no, I'm not surprised by this. I've gone over this before. Girls don't grow up learning the same lessons about violent aggression that boys do, because everybody is allowed to hit boys back if they are violently aggressive, and only girls are allowed to hit girls back if they are violently aggressive. And most girls are more likely to engage in relational aggression toward each other. So when a girl gets, then they're raised to believe that it is okay to be violently aggressive toward a guy if they are angry with him, if they feel outraged. So they're going to engage in more dating violence because they feel entitled.
I wonder if this is a study where it looks like it was done with it was an interview. It was a quantitative interview study where they essentially just asked the question, "Have you experienced dating violence?" Or however they framed it. I wonder if boys and maybe girls too that actually had suffered some form of violence, like maybe it was something that they would not consider to be violence, but they were certainly, experiencing some, did not answer that they did. Like maybe the boy number is even higher because there's lots of cases where a girl will use, slapping and hitting and wrestling, and it might be playful and it might be angry, but he would not consider it to be violent either way, or he doesn't know the difference. I wonder, though, if the number's higher as a result of that, especially when you consider the number of boys that are being born, in fatherless homes, and therefore they're more often, they're abused by their mothers. They get put in the school system that feminizes them, etc. So when the relational violence comes, they may not see it that way because they've become accustomed to violence in relationships. And unless it's somehow above and beyond or something that they would consider to be extreme, they wouldn't report it that way. It's just something I'm thinking about, because I wonder, like, about these numbers, what these studies that come out, like, what do we know about the people involved? What do we know about other factors, that boys and girls experience that could have a kind of trickle-down effect to this reporting on this particular study? Just something I'm thinking about. I don't know. Also, this doesn't appear to make the statement that this is only affecting heterosexual boys and girls. So there might be, some other factors too. Although rates of domestic violence between homosexual men are the lowest. So I don't know. It's just it's interesting. It's an interesting study. So I'm just sort of, waffling a bit here. But anybody else?
Well, yeah, with heterosexual men being the lowest, and the fact that we do know boys
homosexual
have to deal
men.
with the fact that we do know that boys, if they hit, they have to deal with the fact that whoever they hit is entitled to hit them back, as opposed to, and that may change now. Like with school systems doing that stupid thing where if somebody hits you, and you put your hands up to block the next punch, you get in trouble because you got in a fight.
Come to think of it, it even transcends class. No matter how high class a man you are, you can't expect to punch a working class man and not get punched back.
No, in fact, if you're a high class man and you're not tough, because not all high class men are wimps, but if you're a high class man and you happen to be a wimp and you hit, maybe a construction worker and he wipes the ground with you, everybody's going to laugh at you for picking a fight with somebody who is bigger and stronger than you are. But, if I were to pick a fight with my husband, who I have actually physically seen bend steel with his bare hands, if I did that, which would be really stupid, and he hurt me, everybody would come down on him for it. And, of course, feminists excuse, well, just because you are aggressive doesn't mean it justifies a beatdown because you're a girl. No. Don't be aggressive if you can't back it up. Boys learn that lesson. If women learn that lesson too, if girls learn that lesson when they were growing up, and don't try to solve problems that can be solved with conflict management by acting aggressively. If girls learned that same lesson growing up, if they weren't protected so much, so overprotected against dealing with violence as a consequence of initiating violence, then maybe they wouldn't grow up to hit their boyfriends and they wouldn't grow up to hit their husbands, and we would get rid of about 2/3 of domestic violence.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the insight, guys. I got some super chats, I think. No, I don't. Okay. Never mind. Sad face. Let's move on to the last story then. Let's see here. Oop, there we go. Vladek Filler fought the law and he won. A lawsuit has been settled for a man cleared in a sexual assault case. Vladek Filler was accused of raping his then-wife in 2007 in their home in Goldsboro, Maine. He maintained that his wife fabricated the accusations against him to gain leverage in a looming custody dispute over the couple's 2 sons. From Bangor Daily News, Filler was charged with 2 counts of gross sexual assault and 3 counts of simple assault, and at the end of January 2009, trial, was found guilty of 1 gross sexual assault charge and 2 assault charges. That conviction later was thrown out, however, after the trial judge ruled Kellett had made inappropriate comments during her closing remarks to the jury. Filler filed a complaint against Kellett with the main board of overseers of the bar. He accused her of violating rules of the bar with comments she made during his trial and by failing to provide evidence to Filler he believed supported his innocence. The board of overseers later determined Kellett violated 7 bar rules in prosecuting Filler's case and recommended that she be suspended. The following year, she was sanctioned by the state Supreme Court and ordered to undergo legal remediation for improperly handling the case against Filler. Later, in his retrial, Filler was acquitted of gross sexual assault, but was convicted on 1 simple assault charge and served 21 days in jail. This conviction was later vacated by the state. Filler filed a federal civil lawsuit against police officers, prosecutors, and other witnesses in his case, along with a complaint against the former prosecutor Mary Kellett with the Board of Overseers. According to a report by WABI, Vladek Filler had received a settlement of $375,000. From Bangor Daily News. Filler said that many men in Hancock and Washington counties have been victims of false allegations and prosecutions, and that such allegations, especially when made during impending divorces and child custody disputes, are, quote, very common and very destructive, end quote. He said that he hopes his case serves as an example for others in similar situations. I also hope state and local authorities will take appropriate actions to protect due process rights of falsely accused men. Well, let's hope, he said. Filler was granted full custody of the boys in his subsequent divorce from his wife. So, I thought I would end some good news. Yes, I wanted to end on good news.
We finally have some.
Yes. I wanted to end on some good news, so.
How long did this case take? How many years?
Started in 2007.
Right. So 11 years.
A long time coming.
11
years.
years.
Hold in there, guys. If you think your case has been going on for a long time, you know, it could go on for a fucking long time and then have a happy ending. Who knows?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the 7 years in hell case is the same. It took 7 years for him to get the vexatious litigant ruling to stop her from making allegation after allegation after allegation. And that was without there being a corrupt prosecutor hell-bent on putting him in jail. That was just the system working the way the system works. So it will take, it's not just that it can. In most cases, it will take a long time.
Well, there you go. I have a super chat from Field of Bears. It's $5 and says, but CNN says that women never lie about rape and or sexual assault. Yeah, only 2% of accusations turn out to be false, guys. Only 2%. So Vladek Filler is lucky because he happened to fall into that 2% window. Whew! Only took 11 years to figure that out. Only took 11 years. And who knows how much money? I mean, he may have walked away with $375,000, but I wonder how much he spent when you think about it. And he spent some time in jail too.
I mean, can you put a price on those 10 years?
No, you cannot.
No.
You know, the victim in the 7 years in hell case still has, I mean, he's going to have PTSD from it probably forever. I don't think he's going to recover from that aspect. He's not ever going to look at police officers the same, ever. You know, he's not ever going to look at women the same. And he shouldn't. Because, you know, basically it's like having your third eye opened. You know, and he judges women's character very differently than the way he used to. And you are changed forever after you face an ordeal like this, even with one allegation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like putting on the glasses, you know, from They Live.
Yeah.
You start seeing everything for what it really is. All the messages become clear.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
it can be kind of like when you go through training for universal precautions in healthcare, suddenly becoming a germaphobe because they're everywhere all the time. You can't touch anything without getting germs. You can't touch anything like normal things. Every time you go in and out a door, you are getting new germs on your fingertips that were not there before. And you become aware, very much aware of all of that stuff. When you deal with a false accusation and it comes out of nowhere and it's tolerated, and you find out that not only can your accuser get away with lying about you, but your accuser can violate the law repeatedly, lie to police during an investigation, file a false complaint, perjure herself, be in contempt of court even, and face no repercussions. It really, really brings about an awareness of the degree and level of risk that you are in just by living in a society that has women in it, much less trusting some. And it's very remarkable that a guy can go through an ordeal like that and trust any women at all afterwards. And I think part of the reason that my friend does is because many of the people who stood up for him were the women around him. And you learn to, like I said, you learn to vet women for character real fast in that situation.
Yeah, and aside from anything else, let's hope Mr. Filler is one of those people who can handle a monetary windfall, because we're calling that the good news, but let's hope he can invest it wisely. As we know, for a lot of people, it's a happy ending like that doesn't turn out to be happy. For a lot of lottery winners, for them it turns out to be the worst thing that ever happened to them, because they blow it all and alienate people and then go back to a worse life than they started at. But I would imagine that 11 years in hell would make you value that sort of payoff. But for some people, even that sort of payoff doesn't work out.
He's a pretty down to earth kind of guy. I think he'll be okay. And he probably does have some expenses that he's going to have to take care of because of this case. But aside from that, so it's not going to seem like as big of a windfall as it is. The other thing that makes this a really great piece of news is this is an example of the state and the individuals in responsible positions in an area of the state being held accountable, facing consequences for doing this to men. This is a consequence. Somebody's ass is in a sling right now because this man won this money. And that is a big deal.
Also, AVFM's been covering this story for a while too.
They were there for him. I wasn't part of the group at the time that this started, and I wasn't involved in the coverage, but A Voice for Men was there for him for almost the entire ordeal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says, this, when I do this search here, it goes back at, 2012, probably before that, 2011. So yeah, it looks like they've been involved since the beginning. And they've been following this pretty closely. So yeah, they've been involved from that far back. Did they?
There were actually several men who went out and went to court with him and everything.
So they were supporting him through all this, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. All right.
I wonder if our case will go on for 11 years.
It could.
I hope not.
I wonder if Dankula's case goes on for 11 years.
It could, but I hope not. Hopefully, we'll have our appeal heard, and hopefully we'll win that, and it'll be done and over with.
I really hope
Buddha
is alive at the end of Dankula's case. I just thought about that.
Oh, I don't know how old that pug is, but I hope
well,
so
now
too.
he's immortal.
Yeah, he lives forever on the internet. He's a meme now. So, congratulations. Congratulations.
Although that means he's illegal in Europe.
Damn it.
He was illegal
was
before it was
already
cool.
illegal in Europe.
Yeah, he was illegal before it was cool. All right, so let's see. I got one more super chat, and then if there's any final thoughts on this stuff, if there isn't, we'll just move on to the after show. So Ciara Flora gives us $2 and says, "Let us welcome the new member of MGTOW, Vladek Filler." Is that what you mean? If anything, I think he's been MGTOW for a while because he's been dealing with this for a bit, and I'm pretty sure that'll do it. Any other final thoughts on any of the stories, guys?
We now have the mainstream, the normie in the United States talking about false allegations, talking about the importance of due process, talking about how much evidence matters, and this, 5 or 10 years ago, the men's rights movement never would have expected to happen so soon or in this manner. Believe it or not, by creating this situation, the progressive end of the left, the feminist Marxist end of the left, they've done us a huge favor. No matter how this goes down, there's now a much larger segment of the population that is aware of these issues and discussing them. And I don't think it's going to go well for the Believe Women #MeToo crowd.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's not as though MRAs can claim the victory at all, but people who advocate for the rights of men can, if we're talking the literal definition of that thing. People who advocate for the rights of men have been going on about due process for many years now, and I don't know. We're all going to be forgotten by history, folks, but I think the messages we put out there will stick in people's craw, even though they'll never admit that there were people sticking it in their craw. They'll just go. They'll assume it was their idea all along. Yeah, and that's fine. As long as you fix everything, that's fine.
I got one more thing. If you're arguing with people about the Kavanaugh case on social media, and you run up against somebody that, when you go back through the thread, you're basically seeing the same 4 or 5 arguments, just reworded and reused to fit whatever it is you just said, that's a professional troll. Disengage. There's a whole host of them out there arguing this case.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. And we're going to go into the after show now. We're going to be talking about this story. This new hashtag called Why I Didn't Report, which is basically women explaining why they're not coming forward until now. And of course, it's all a bunch of... It's cancer. It's cancer.
Can you have an apostrophe in a hashtag? Doesn't that fuck it up?
Yeah, I don't think you can put punctuation in a hashtag.
Oh, so it just didn't. Oh,
yeah.
It just looks annoying. Sorry.
Maybe it should have been like why I didn't report, didn't do.
I mean, they managed to shrink the rape accusations all the way down to Me Too. Surely there's a punchier way of saying why I didn't report. How about why not, bitch? Well, just why not is fine.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Maybe there should be a hashtag that actually is that they would use that is so large that they can't actually fit in a story with it. It just takes up all the characters. We have to come up.
They need to get hit with hashtag accountability gap.
Yeah.
I suppose they could go to why I failed to report, but that would imply a woman failed to do something. We can't have that.
Can't have that.
That needs to happen too. Why I failed to report needs to happen, because you'd get women posting to it, and then you would get feminists having a collective cow. It would be great.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Or just why I fail. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go ahead and get out of here and go to the after show. So once again, hit that like button, please. Subscribe to the channel. Join us in the after show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. In addition, if you are watching this on the main channel at Honey Badger Radio, please come over to Badger Live Streams to subscribe. This is where all the live shows will go. This is where they will live. So you probably want to watch them there. And this is also where all of the people are partying at. So if you want to be a part of the discussion, come over here. Come over to Badger Live Streams. We have cookies. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. We'll see you guys in the after show. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you very soon.